right, we're going to go to Ottawa now, where the leader of Alberta's NDP party is speaking, calling on Danielle Smith to denounce the separatism movement in her province.
Top Trump officials. The U.S. State Department has confirmed that these meetings took place, during which the separatists were seeking financial support from the U.S. to leave Canada. There are many words one can use to describe this kind of behavior, and we've heard a lot of those words today. But I'll just say that this news is extremely disturbing, and it is completely unacceptable. Albertans are proud to be Albertan, and we are proud to be Canadian. These people have no authority to be negotiating with other countries. I feel like here in Ottawa, we've had a lot of people yelling a lot over the last couple of years on the issue of foreign interference. This is clear foreign interference. We've heard as well today from the Treaty 6, 7, and 8 chiefs in Alberta. They are rightly speaking out against the constitutionality of separatism, the need to respect treaty rights, and respecting Indigenous people in Alberta. Alberta's New Democrats stand with the First Nations in Alberta, and we stand with their actions being taken against the separatist movement. Today I want to be clear about one thing. This is Danielle Smith's fault. Danielle Smith caused all of this. By pandering to the separatists, by coddling them, by cozying up to Trump, by cozying up to those who want Alberta to be the 51st state, all for her own political gain. She has caused this. And it is time for Danielle Smith to take a stand. No more word salad. A sovereign Alberta within a united Canada, her favorite phrase. What does that even mean? An Albertan recently told me, that sounds like me saying, I want to be a single man within the confines of my marriage. There is no playing both sides here. Albertans are smarter than the Premier gives us credit for. And it's time for the Premier to unequivocally denounce separatism, to stand with Albertans, to stand with Canadians. She has a beautiful chance to do that today. She had a beautiful chance to do that today in front of the Prime Minister, in front of the other premiers before she left Ottawa. She chose not to do that. She couldn't even bring herself to denounce the people who are conspiring with Americans to take over our country. She couldn't even do that. She talks about separatism being a pressure valve release, but she never talks about the fact that she is the one applying the pressure. And it is time for Albertans to hear from the Premier where she truly stands. You know, this week, all of Alberta's New Democrats, MLAs, including me, signed a very simple pledge. And it just says, I affirm that I'm a proud Albertan and a proud Canadian. I'm opposed to separatism, and I'll make my position known and clear to my constituents. To date, not a single one of Danielle Smith's MLAs has signed this pledge. I got a blank one right here. See you at the airport, Premier. I'll bring a pen. But of course, she's not going to do it. So far, no member of her government has signed, and her silence speaks volumes. I want to say something to Albertans watching. Look, we live in the best province in the greatest nation in the world. We've contributed so much to this place. We've contributed so much to Confederation. Is it perfect? No, it's a big, complicated, bruised, and battered country. But there's nowhere else I'd rather be. And there's nowhere else I'd rather be working to make this country work even better. So yes, let's fix the federal regulatory process. Let's fix the fiscal framework within the Federation. And let's focus on the things that Albertans really care about. A collapsed healthcare system. A public education system that's not working for so many students. Bringing back energy jobs, reducing the cost of living, making the Alberta Advantage real again. Our Premier needs to be a real leader. She needs to focus on the things that matter. She needs to end this debate now. She needs to denounce separatism. If she can't, or if she won't, it's time to elect a government that will. And Alberta's New Democrats and I are ready to be that government. Happy to take questions.
Agree with Premier Eby's suggestion, Ian Bailey, Globe and Mail. Do you agree with Premier Eby's suggestion earlier today that there's a kind of treason in the air with this sort of engagement where sovereigntists are engaging with a government that frankly doesn't have Canada's interests at heart?
Well, thanks for that question, Ian. And I think that the critical thing is, Premier Eby chose his words. I would simply say that these folks have no democratic legitimacy. Nobody elected them to do this. And they are actively negotiating with a government, a foreign government, that has stated at the highest levels that it wants to destabilize the Canadian Federation. We've heard from the Secretary of the Treasury that he'd like to take Alberta. We've heard from a representative, a congressman, who often says what the White House is thinking about the Alberta separatists. Why would a guy from Tennessee even have heard of the Alberta separatism movement? It's clear that there is something afoot here. And this kind of conspiring with foreign entities against the democratic will of Canadians is something that should concern us all.
Anyone else?
Yeah, so just to follow up on that, but what would you say to Albertans who do feel that they would want to support this kind of referendum? And would your party reach out to these separatists? Or?
Yeah, as we have done, this summer, when the Premier was doing a series of fake town halls that she called the Alberta Next panels, we also had a series of town halls, and we also spoke with Albertans. We knocked on over 200,000 doors. We showed up at every small town parade, rodeo. We went to all the powwows, and we went to dog parks. And we also had a series of these town halls, 10 of them, across the whole province. Thousands of Albertans came. And what we heard loud and clear from Albertans is, yeah, there are concerns about our relationship with the federal government. There always have been. But we also heard from these Albertans that they are fiercely proud Canadians. They're fiercely proud of our veterans. They're fiercely proud of what we built together as a nation. But they don't feel like they have a voice because the Premier doesn't represent that voice. The Premier has never said, I'm a proud Canadian. And so we want to give them that voice. And to those who are pursuing separatism, many of them are just saying, look, I want to send a signal. I want to show something that we're going to stand up for something. The folks who are going to the U.S. are not that. They are not people who would be appeased by a pipeline or a better health care deal. They're something quite different. And they're willing to gamble with the future of Alberta with the Trump regime. And quite frankly, I think most Albertans are quite horrified by that behavior.